welcome to our special call meeting for September the 5th. This evening we'll do the first thing will be the reading of the call.
The purpose of the meeting is to present an offer to the city administrator candidate and set an employment start date. This is an open public meeting. The meeting will be recorded and broadcast on TUA Live 2.
And with that, if you please stand for the invocation to begin, we're going to the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you always for so many blessings in life, and we thank you for how you blessed our city. Now that we would ask you to preside over this meeting tonight, everything that we do be in keeping with your will. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let the city recorder do the roll call.
Walker.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Noah.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis. Wilson.
Present.
We have 6. We certainly have a quorum. So tonight, we have an opportunity for public comments. All citizens interested to be invited to speak up to 3 minutes about any matter within the purview of the board. If you'd like to speak, please speak into the microphone, stating your name and the address.
Bob Bates.
First of all, I don't know Mr. Quick, and this is nothing personal against him. But when he submitted his resume and application for the city administrator's position in April, he was, as stated on the resume, the principal of Tullahoma High School. When the selection committee reviewed the applications for the position, submitting their rating system to BOMA for their consideration on July 11th, Mr. Quick was no longer employed by Tullahoma City Schools and had not been since June 30th of 2023. Mr. Quick did not submit, to my knowledge, a revised resume to reflect the actual level of his employment at the time of his change in employment. Per those documents then submitted to the city, the selection committee could not be aware that Mr. Quick was no longer employed by TCS. Additionally, when BOMA was given the application information, they could not have been aware, per the documentation, that Mr. Quick was no longer employed by TCS. Since Mr. Quick allowed the false documentation to be used in the selection process without revision, whether intentionally or accidentally, his application should no longer be valid. BOMA selection made with incomplete, false, or at best misleading information. I object to the city of Tullahoma offering the CEO job for the city to a person that did not make the top 7 of the selection committee's rating list. In fact, he did not make the top 8, including ties. There were 18 individuals listed ahead of him by the selection committee, thereby telling the selection committee that their work was done in vain and would be overridden, could possibly be overridden, even though they acknowledged that in their letter. He does not have the professional qualifications or training for a person in this position and will be accepting a position based on incomplete and/or false information on his resume. I'm sure that BOMA, if they had known that Mr. Quick was no longer employed by TCS at the time of his application, consideration that they would have wanted to know why he was no longer employed at Tullahoma City Schools, especially since he had stated on his Facebook page that he planned on staying in that position until retirement. It appears that BOMA does not want a qualified person in the position of CEO, city administrator, and would rather have someone in that position who would be willing to be obliging to BOMA and not tell them the rules, very extensive and legally potentially binding, that the city must follow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Public comments. Move right into the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda tonight, the agenda being only one item, someone's supposed to call. Motion from Mary, seconded by Walker. Seconded by Wilson. All in favor, please vote. And the agenda is approved. With that, the call as read was to simply present an offer, and each of you received a copy of the letter that was prepared by our HR staff that goes into the details of the offer. You all have read it. This is an opportunity to make changes to this offer letter or accept it as it is, and to then set an employment date for Mr. Quick. So with that, I'll open the floor for comments. Alderman Amaker, you're recognized.
It doesn't say anything requested.
We need a
Okay.
motion.
No, we already have.
No, we already made a motion. Second. You made the motion?
Agenda, we need a motion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Yeah, that's true.
I make a motion that we accept this offer. Or-
Well, that make a motion to accept so that we can second for discussion.
Yeah.
Then we can make, I'll second.
As always.
I'll second the motion, or did you second? Okay, fine.
Okay, the motion has been made to accept the offer as presented by the HR staff, and have a motion and a second. Open for discussion. Alderman Amaker, you're having your hand up.
Okay, yeah, so I think this is a fair offer. I would first like to respond. I'm speaking for myself here, but I'm pretty well under the impression we all knew at the time of Mr. Quick's, we can all read the newspaper that he was no longer an employee of Tullahoma City Schools, and that, and when you're in education, if you've never worked in education, generally you're on a year-to-year contract, and you don't always know from one year to the next. They may decide to go in a different direction, and being in education and working through that, that's quite common for principals to leave, for superintendents to move, for teachers to change districts. Mr. Quick, what's beautiful about his resume is the very fact that he has a master's in organizational leadership, and he absolutely could just about do anything that the man wanted to do. And that diverse skill set, operating multi-million-dollar businesses, running schools, working in different areas with organizational leadership, being a salesperson. He has all of the above. He is very much qualified to be the city administrator by our job posting, and I would encourage you, Mr. Bates. I love that you are always willing to speak out and speak your mind, and while I respect your opinion, I hope that you will get to know Mr. Quick, and you too will learn that he is an excellent choice. So thank you for your comments, but unfortunately, I think they were a little misguided. We all were well aware that Mr. Quick was no longer an employee at Tullahoma City Schools, and we would hope that he, wanted to be city administrator. Maybe that was his plan all along. We don't know. Maybe he asked the superintendent of schools, "Hey, I'm not going to do this because this is what I want to do." I don't know. That could have been a conversation, but we're lucky to have him, and I'm glad he's here. On to this. The duties of the position are defined in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, Chapter 3. I know that we briefly talked about not doing a contract, and we're just kind of alluding back to that Tullahoma Municipal Code, Chapter 3. I did think that it might be wise of us to review those duties and determine whether or not we want to revise the duties in the code. And that way, since even that this is an offer of employment, I don't know if technically it could be considered contractual. Obviously our code is subject to change, but perhaps we even just put a caveat in there. The duties of this position are defined in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, Chapter 3, and are subject to change. I make a motion to make that First Amendment.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We have an amendment to the, we have made an amendment to the motion.
Yep.
And a second to the amendment. Any other comments on the amendment?
Jenna?
Yes, that just the duties of this position are defined in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, Chapter 3. It's on there, and then just say, and are subject to change. Just period. Yeah, because we can obviously legally change the ordinance.
Any further discussion on the amendment? If not, we'll vote on the amendment. Ready to vote?
Oh, we needed a motion and a second. That's what
We got a motion and a second. Voting on the amendment. It passes 6-0. Now we have the motion as amended. Alderman Berry.
One more motion just to wham it all. Amend it to say the start date as soon as HR provides and the candidate signs the documents, but no later than October 1st.
And then the benefits too, if we can amend it to add that the benefits would commence at the time that he starts.
Well,
I think
it's
we
the
have
month,
normal-
it's the first day of the month. I think that the insurance companies require it to be the first day of the month.
Okay.
Passed.
Well, don't we have a standard procedure for benefits though as an employee?
Yes.
You don't have to start on the first of the month.
30 calendar days. 30 calendar days.
They start after 30 calendar days. Yeah, I thought that was more
Gotcha.
standard
Be the first
HR policy.
30 calendar days.
I was just trying to move it up. If we were going to move up the start date, I
So you
thought
said the
we
first of
should
the
recognize that too, but not obviously if it's
If they
in policy.
started on September 1st, it would start October 1st. If they start September the 10th, they would start November 1st.
November 1st.
So it has to start on the first of the month, following the month of the start date. So if he were to start sometime in September, but it has to be at least 30 days. It would still be November 1st, so I don't think there's anything we can do about that. But I will second the motion that as soon as he signs the documents and can report to work, that he may start, but no later than October 1st.
Have you got that documented and written down, Alderman Berry?
I don't need that back.
Okay, the start date is defined as soon as HR produces the candidate signs the documents no later than October the 1st.
I can't believe he read my writing.
Struggle.
That's impressive.
We have a motion?
So it's just an amendment to this?
Yes, it is amendment, yeah.
It's
To the original
to the original motion, yeah. Just so we can just knock it all out.
Okay.
This is an amendment to the original motion, which we just, okay. And we got a motion and a second.
And-
Alderman Glenn.
Yes, I just wanted to add to that, and I don't know if we need to amend that motion, add to it or whatever, but, or if I need to make another motion, amendment motion after this one. So the only thing that I wanted to say was that about the contract and about what Jenna was saying is, as prescribed in the municipal code, there's a 3-month probationary period. And I say that we would use that 3-month probationary period to decide upon whether to enter into a contract or not, or work on that. But we could use that 3 months to develop a contract or decide not to do one.
And that would also be subject to Mr. Mr.
Quick, well,
Well, yes and no.
yes and no.
We offer one, then we give the choice to accept it or not.
Right, yeah, but that's,
Does that, we need a motion?
I don't know if we need to, or does that just go without saying, or?
Yeah, I think it might be wise to put it in the contract. Make a motion that candidate will be subject to a 90-day probationary period. At the end of the 90 days, we also can,
At which time we may.
we can review
We can,
just like any other employee,
We can-
and we do an evaluation and then decide how we want to, if we want to continue with the contract or not.
or not, yeah.
Keep in mind, what we're doing tonight is an offer letter, not a contract.
I understand that.
So,
We're just spelling it out, just so everybody's on the same page.
so now let's get this in let's just get this as another motion.
Or do you want to just add it to Mr. Berry? Add it into Mr. Berry's motion if he accepts it.
We didn't. We haven't voted on your motion.
I'll accept that.
Okay.
So we've got another amendment to the motion. Any other discussion on the amendment? Now we're ready to vote on the amendment.
Well, I need this.
Okay, yeah, so just to rephrase for her, the first part was the
Start date.
this start date.
I got this one.
Candidate is subject to 90-day probationary period, at which time the BOMA may choose to continue with or without contract.
Yes.
Good.
I watched a lot of Law and Order.
Yeah, there you go.
He stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Any discussion on the next amendment? Now we're ready to vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Start date.
It had the other part in it, that's all.
We trust her. She's
I
good.
promise I'll do it right.
That amendment passes 6-0. Now we're ready to vote on the original motion as amended twice. Any further discussion on the motion
Should we,
as amended?
before we vote on it, since it's, I mean, we're voting on this being the offer, my question is, yeah, I think I just answered my own question. Never mind. Go ahead.
Let's vote.
Ready to vote on the motion as amended twice.
If we do this and he signs the paperwork tomorrow,
That's what I was,
he would start tomorrow, correct?
that's where I was going
Or
with it in my
would he
head.
start?
Well, there may be,
The
we'd have
motion
to,
was as soon as HR preps it and he signs and they say he's good, then he's good.
yeah, we want him to start tomorrow if possible, or at least I do, but there may be some stuff HR might have to do as in processing that might take longer. I don't know. I'd have to ask HR if there's a background check required, or I don't
We
know.
already did that, yeah.
Oh, they've already done all that? Okay, well, yeah, tomorrow morning. So,
That's what that motion was, is just
Yeah.
get it to them, get the
Yeah.
stuff, let them sign his paperwork.
Okay.
What is our expectation, though, as far as any sort of training period, or for Kenny, or for, I mean, do we need to address that? Or,
We don't need to address that
I don't think we do.
because Mr. Pearson will work with Mr. Quick to make the transition seamless.
I know he would.
I know. And I hate, I know, crap. Residing in Tullahoma. I know that he does have a home in Winchester, and we talked about this in the interviews, and not interested in selling, but we did make the police chief move from Shelbyville to Tullahoma. Do we want to say you at least need to have a residence in Tullahoma? It could
No,
be I kind of feel like the city administrator who lives here, or the city administrator for the city, should have a residence in the city.
I think if you are,
Within a year.
I think
required?
if you have a contract with him, I think that would be one thing. But again, since
That's true.
if we don't offer him a contract, he has no expectation that
No
he will
permanency.
still be.
I agree.
And so if a contract, yes, I think that could be an expectation, but without one, I think in 90 days, well, we've told you got to buy a house in Tullahoma, but you know what, we changed your mind.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
I don't,
I'm with you. I take it back. Let's vote.
All right,
I think,
let's go.
yeah, I don't think the residency requirements are,
No residency requirements for the time being. We can reconsider that in 90 days if we enter into a contract.
I'm 100% with you. Let's vote.
Okay.
well, was the other question answered?
that was-
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as they get ready. That was in that motion.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
We have a motion and 2 amendments. Ready to vote?
Without a contract.
I wouldn't do it without a contract.
Anyone wish to change your vote? That passes 6-0. We have defined the offer, we've defined the salary, we've defined the start date. Is there any other business to come before this board tonight?
Do we want to hear from the candidate?
Yeah.
He's kind of long-winded.
Yeah, well.
I do have 10 second and third graders waiting on me on a football field.
Well, maybe, we haven't heard if he's accepting our offer yet, so I think
Maybe
that
you can tell
might
us
be,
that. Yeah.
that might be something.
I
And then,
promise you, I will be brief. I just want to say thank you to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I know this has been a tedious process for y'all, and I know in speaking with each one of you, you have an undying commitment to the city of Tullahoma to make Tullahoma the best it can be. I look forward to fulfilling your confidence in me in working with you and working with our outstanding department heads who I've had a lot of time to meet over the last few weeks, and look forward to working and helping Tullahoma reach its fullest potential. So I just want to say thank you. I will sign that as soon as we're done, and I want to make sure that Alderman Berry gets to his football game. So I just want to say thank you.
does that mean you'll be at work tomorrow?
I don't have a pen. Did you bring a pen with you?
I have a pen
I
right
think we
here.
can put that on record as the quickest he's ever taken the podium. left the podium.
No other business to come before the board, we adjourn.
Thank you.
All right.